Hi, welcome back to Rooted Badger Rock's virtual workshop series. Forrest Smart here again. We're out here at the garden at Badger Rock. We're going to be doing a little garden workshop today, and we're going to be talking about cover crop. Right now it's the middle of August, and we're in the middle of harvesting a lot of stuff, and some of our beds are going to be getting free pretty soon, actually. Once we clear out all the fruits and veggies from those beds, then we're going to want to clear out the veggies from there. Actually, let me start back. Sometimes you might want to leave your veggies in the ground over winter because then they also help promote aeration into your soil, and it keeps it kind of stable and doesn't keep it from like washing out from the rains or anything like that. But if you do end up taking out your crops from your rows, from your beds, one of the biggest things we try to avoid when it comes to gardening or farming is trying to do soil protection, soil management, and weed reduction or weed suppression. So, oh, we got a big plane going by. So, biggest thing we don't want in our garden beds is open soil. We don't want soil that's going to be taking in all the weeds blowing in from all around. We want that to be beneficial, and we want to keep the soil healthy. So instead of just leaving it bare, once we take out all of our plants, this can go for raised beds too if you're just gardening on a small scale, or if you're farming on a larger scale and you have 50-foot rows. There's different kinds of cover crops you can use for them, and they all have a little bit of different benefits to using them. So I'm just going to cover a few of them today and some of the situations you might use them. So let's say if you have maybe raised beds, maybe just a 4x8, kind of a smaller one. You just harvested all of your veggies out of there. It's getting to be end of summertime, starting into fall. It might be a little too late to start a late season crop, maybe like carrots or okra, broccoli, whatever it may be. It might just be a little too late to start those before the first frost comes. So instead of just leaving our soil bare, let it be prone to gaining weeds and all that, we want to fix it with some beneficial plants that maybe we won't be eating actually. So for a small garden bed, I would say you'd want something that's going to add more organic material because you really you didn't not completely depleted the soil, but through all of your mixture of vegetables that you had in your raised bed, it's going to deplete a lot of those nutrients in your soil. So instead of just leaving it for next spring to add in a ton of compost, we can actually put some cover crop in, and that's going to help retain the soil, retain the moisture in there from the roots of these cover crops going in. And then it's also going to add more organic material once these plants grow up. Before they actually go to seed, they're going to be full of nutrients and all of their green. And basically the idea is you can either let that die over winter. Once you plant it in early fall, let it come to maturity, and then it'll eventually die off after the first frost. And all that organic material can either be incorporated into the soil, or you could just kind of leave it over and it'll become like a mulch for your next season. And you could actually just plant right into the soil from that. And that's usually what we call, I can't think of the word, no-till gardening, no-till farming. Because a lot of times when we till the soil, if we till it with like a tiller that tends to go a little bit deeper than we want, and it tends to disturb and disrupt all those microbes and all the nutrients that are in the soil in that top layer. So the less we can do for disturbing the soil, the better. And yeah, I just kind of wanted to give you that example for like a raised bed. In my opinion, I think for raised beds, maybe doing something like oats and peas would be a really good addition. Oats are a long annual grass. They grow really long roots, so they really provide a lot of space for the soil to kind of aerate, be a little bit looser, and for water to get deeper into the soil as well. So those are annual grasses. That includes like wheat, rye, oats, then just different varieties of those, as well as some others kind of slipping my mind right now. I mentioned peas. Peas are a legume. We want legumes a lot of times for cover crops because then they're nitrogen fixers. So a lot of times we take a lot of the nitrogen out of our soil for our plants, for our summer crop plants that we eat, and then we want to fixate some more nitrogen back into the soil. And the way we can do that is using legumes. So that could be, I wonder if we have some in here. So a kind of non-traditional example. So we have sorghum, Sudan grass right here, but this is also a nitrogen fixer. So we can plant some of that if we wanted to. Helps bring in more nitrogen into the soil. I mentioned there's peas, there's soybeans. I'm trying to think of what else we have. Vetch is another one, though that's kind of more aggressive grass in a way. But yeah, oats and peas give a good combination of fixing nitrogen back into the soil as well as aerating it, giving it more, being able to hold its moisture content. Another one that we like to put in a lot of times is, well, I can't think, broadleaf plants. So this can include buckwheat, clover, all the different types of clover, white clover, red clover. And these really help just kind of suppress weeds. So buckwheat especially grows really fast and it grows really tall. With broadleaves too, it really helps suppress weeds by getting ahead of them and then not allowing them to overgrow. And the buckwheat, kind of similar to I was talking about the grasses, it provides a lot of organic material. The only thing you want to do is with buckwheat, you'd want, actually I think we have buckwheat right here. So here's our buckwheat. We don't want to plant this right around now, maybe into the early, maybe beginning of September at the latest. But we want to have this grow and mature and to start flowering. And the idea is we want to get these plants mature before the first frost. We don't want them to go to seed. Because once they start going to seed, they start changing their, it's less sugars that go into the plant and more starches. And that's just harder to break down. So if we wanted to chop and then use these as like kind of organic material to fix into the soil, then it would just be harder for it to break down. So we want the plants to be more at the flowering stage rather than right before they go to seed. So kind of a window, kind of a small window. You want to make sure you're keeping an eye on your cover crops when you put them in. For most of these, I'd say right around middle of August through end or middle of September. For a lot of cover crops that you want to mature during the fall, and then they're going to have what's called a winter kill. So once it comes winter, even though the plants will be mature, they'll start to die off, and then all that plant material will start getting back into the soil, either by just leaving it, kind of using it as a mulch, or as I mentioned before, you can till it or you can work it into the soil. I've seen a lot of methods of tilling, kind of more conventional. It's a lot quicker for people that are just more crunched on time. But otherwise, if you just want to work in with like a pitchfork, a rake, that's a little bit less aggressive, doesn't go too deep into the soil, doesn't disrupt all those microbes and all the life that's going on in there. So yeah, a good way is just raking it in, trying to get maybe like an inch or two below the soil. And yeah, that's a good way of getting it in. Again, no till is always what we want to do. We don't want to disturb the soil. The less we disturb it, the more it can grow, the more healthy it can be. So just kind of just depends on which situation you're in. If you're more of a farmer, bigger scale, let's see, maybe like longer beds, huge beds, you might want more coverage, and so that would be more for like grasses again. So this is a mixture that we have that actually here at Rooted, our community gardens network, they've actually made out a lot of these cover crop packets that they've been giving out to a lot of our community gardeners. So this one is our cover crop fall mix. It's got ryegrass, crimson clover, daikon radish, and canola. So again, the ryegrass helps really make that mat of grass, grows really quick, and it's a lot of good organic material to bring back into the soil. Crimson clover, again, just more organic material. It also is a nitrogen fixer. Daikon radish, that's a really cool one too. I didn't mention it, but because the daikon radish grows so deep in the soil, it really helps loosen it up, keeps it from being compact. And then it's also a winter kill. So then once that dies in the winter, it'll start to decompose in the soil, adding more of those nutrients back in, while also like keeping it nice and aerated, keeping it nice and loose as well. So this is just an example of some cover crops that we have. Again, the people that are at Rooted that work in the Gardens Network, if you guys want to contact them, if you have more questions, contact your local farmers, or you can contact one of us too here at the Badger Rock site. We can give you some tips and tricks on what to do with your cover crops or with your garden beds that maybe are just getting cleared out now. But yeah, if you have more questions on it, you could always reach out to us. I guess trying to think of anything else I forgot. Maybe if you do, if you're going to put cover crop in, you just want to make sure that you're going to, or after you put your cover crop in, if it's the springtime the next season and you're starting to till everything in, just make sure you don't plant your summer crops, the ones you're going to be eating, all of your veggies. Don't plant them in right away after you've incorporated your cover crop in the next season. A lot of the things that are digesting all of the plant material in the soil, we don't want them to digest the seeds as well when we plant new seeds. So if you want to give maybe like a couple weeks after your cover crop is incorporated into the soil, let everything really incorporate and just kind of mix in really well. That'll help bring more succession to your seeds when you plant them. So just an extra little tip for when you're planting in the following season. I'm sure there's a few extra things I missed, some examples that I forgot as well. Um, no worries. Again, we can always contact people here at Rooted and our Community Gardens Network. Contact your local gardening store. Cover crop seeds are relatively cheap. They're usually very easy to come by. And yeah, that's about all I have for right now. Again, let us know if you have any questions or if you have any extra tips too that you want to share. You can drop them below in the comments. But until then, we'll see you at our next workshop. Thank you.